so.
Dan, you want to?
Oh, yeah, let me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I only caught that right at the end there as well. It's like, okay, might as well.
Yep.
Sit with my photo, my mugshot. How's everybody doing? Oh, getting some fun feedback there.
Okay, good. So the idea of this panel is basically to cover a little bit of background. I'd like to start asking the guys, how was the process to become a validator? Like, very briefly, because we don't have that much time, but how was the process? Why did you choose to do what you do?
So for us, we started as miners, and we started getting interested in proof of stake, and just kind of started from there and just slowly built from one protocol over to 75 different protocols now that we support, all on proof of stake.
Sure, I'll go next. I started off as an Ethereum validator back in late 2019, and then I really pivoted to Cosmos in around 2021 when I joined Jack Zamplin's team at Strangelove.
A41 started out as an investment vehicle and research firm, and then we started out, I guess last year from January till May, we've done some proof of concept of whether we have what it takes to become a validator. Do we have tech capacity? Do we have governor capability as well? So we've done a testing for 5 months. We first tested out in Cosmos. Is it me?
I don't know.
We've closed the seed round last year, and then that was when we dived deep into the infra space. We now support about 20 networks, and we're also heavily jumping into ETH as a validator, and also supporting diverse Cosmos and Cosmos app chains.
Yep, so Dora team has been working with multiple multi-chain ecosystems to distribute grants, organize hackathons, with basically trying our best to support developers. And our biggest concern is when bear market hits, how can we distribute grants to developers? So we came up with this validator idea where we can distribute some of our validator profits, work with foundations, institutions, and stakers to distribute grants to developers. So we started actually last year, and right now we're validating 30 plus mainnets and testnets.
Super cool. Well, I do the research part at Corazon. I think it's the part of that I understand more. But where do you sit on the validator responsibility chain, let's say, and even more important, can you describe how do you choose the networks that you'll be joining or the projects that you'll be supporting?
I guess we'll start with me. So I don't see our responsibility as ever ending. I mean, we're focused on, of course, keeping the chain up as 100% close as possible, but then we're just focused on building out more resources towards, public use goods. So we have a website, publicnode.com, that we let people use for free, and it helps them, with RPC resources and on testnet and mainnet as well.
Great. Yeah, so going to your question about choosing networks, one thing that Strangelove does a lot is we try to stay bleeding edge. So we were very big into when ICS came out, a huge participant in Game of Chains. So anytime that we can help kind of push Cosmos to a new level, we like to kind of hop in there, help figure things out, and that's kind of how we choose which networks we participate in initially.
I guess we're a little bit different from others. I guess you need to take into account when the validators started as well, because we are fairly newbie compared to Allnodes and Strangelove. I sit on, I guess, we're an Asian company, so we're very hierarchical in a way, and I sit on the top of the chain, so I choose which chains to go into. But when we do that, we have an internal meeting with all the team leads who are leading our business side and also infra side. And based on the research that we've done, through by our interns and the team managers, we have multiple candidates, and then choose with profitability, first thing in mind, and second, can we actually increase our tech reputation will be the second priority. The reason why we go for profitability, instead of ecosystem contribution, would be probably because we're a newbie and we need to always like keep the lights on. Whereas I guess we don't really have a luxury in terms of like doing things for the community before the company, right? After the company, then maybe there may be community, right? So it's a little different, and it's not sexy, but it is what it is.
Yeah. So like our approach is a little bit more bottom up. We listen to our developers, like which chain do you want to build on, and they'll let us know, hey, I want to build on probably Cilicia, I want to build on maybe DYDX, and we'll try to like talk to the core team on whether we can spin up like a validator, whether we're getting delegations, whether we can work with some of your institution partners, so that we can support this cause together. So we're a little bit more like bottom up. We listen to our devs.
Fairly interesting because you can see that for every institution, mostly the trigger is different.
Yeah.
That's fairly interesting. I think even this makes our industry very rich.
Yep.
Because of that, you have different purposes, and it makes sense because it guarantees diversity that we actually need. We can't have like only one validator, so it's fairly interesting. But usually, so you choose the networks, or do the networks approach you to join? Like, do you have any prioritization way on when a network asks you to evaluate?
Let's start with Steven now.
Yeah, you want to start? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, let's start with Steve this time.
Sure. So, yeah, we're actually relatively new. I would say it's competitive across all the validators. It's relatively rare compared with like we're reaching out to the foundations for like a validator slot, or we want to spin up a validator somewhere, then like the foundation is coming to us. I guess this will happen more on like newer chains and newer ecosystems. But there's essentially like more validators on the market, I would say. So I definitely think some of them are more reputable and influential compared with the smaller ones. Yeah, so like we do more, I guess, like outbound, BD compared with like inbound.
I don't know. Like, I don't know how to answer it. I guess it depends on how you look at the game or the industry. My perception on the validator business or infrastructure business is basically like there are two key success factors. One is relationship building, and second is tech reputation. And hereby, tech reputation doesn't really refer to your node operations, because once you're considered as like a top tier or tier 1 or tier 1.5 validators among like the L1s, or at least among the founders, your architecture should be like up there enough that you don't really worry about the tech of your node operations. I would say it's more about, are you at the center of tech discourses that are happening around in the ecosystem that you're trying to validate for. For instance, for ETH, like are you a validator that gets brought up in the talk in regards to account abstraction, or like when the people talk about liquid staking, do they talk about you? Or like EigenLayer, like do they talk about you? For Cosmos, like would people consider you as one of the players to talk to about ICS? Or those type of things are really important. So if you don't have that, I think it's more about you approaching them. Whereas if you do have that, it's more about like you're getting inbound. And I think when you're starting off as a newbie, it's always about creating that moat of yourself, because we're basically talking about an industry that is so commoditized that if I poke a pink elephant in the room, except the Coinbase, everybody is fighting for the same slot, and all the founders are going to go to tier 1s, and for Cosmos, I would say it's Course One, and like a few others as well. For ETH, you're talking to P2P and Killen and a few others as well. So if you're not at that stage, you're always fighting for how much inbound you can create, as a volume, by creating that moat of oh, we are technically capable by being at the center of all these discourses, and at the same time, just build a relationship with the founders. I guess that's the way we do it. That's why we went really hard during Korea Blockchain Week and Token 2049 in order to actually attract the people in and treat them as VIPs basically, and make them feel good, and out of all the validators, why would you choose A41? Like, what are the differences between A41 and others? It's basically, oh, I know John Park, I love him, and that's it. Like, most of the time it is this, but people don't really talk about it in the room. They just have or make up these fake reasons to why they're staking or diversifying. But I think that is what it is for validators.
Yeah, for us, we've been validating for a long time. So usually a lot of teams will come to us and kind of like ask us to either participate in their validation, and then we do several different talks with them, get an idea for what they're building, looking at their documentation for like what's involved in like building the validator is a key part. We always start with the test net, getting in there, making sure that we're comfortable running it, that the community communicates well, and then we'll consider kind of like pivoting to mainnet support, and then more like infrastructure services, running relayers, helping them out to expand, running RPC nodes, running other kind of like applications.
For Allnodes, we're builders, so we're constantly working on test nets and trying to get in at the first start. But I mean, there's times where we miss, and we're joining late into a test net if we can, if it's still open. Otherwise, if it's joining on mainnet, we sometimes have to join on mainnet. So we're just always building and trying to build on new different blockchain protocols.
I guess that was the only controversial one, but I think you can basically see that like all the OGs and builder-centric validators have very technical capacity to support mainnet and networks, whereas the newbies tend to see it as more of a private banking and wealth management point of view, and we poach clients in a different way. And Dora has also different moat of doing hackathon and also being a helper for L1. So I guess we're all fighting with the different weapons, and we all have different colors. And yeah, that's what probably you guys are seeing here.
Yeah, I agree. Makes sense.
Actually, I'd like to extend a little bit more exactly on that dimension. If research is where validator responsibility starts, because you need to choose the projects to join, where does it end? Because now there is this kind of expectation and even requirement sometimes that it's not enough for validators to run infrastructure. So how exactly happens internally for you to decide? I think you mentioned a little bit already, you want to build in that for this chain. But so what exactly? Yeah, I think it's interesting. For example, mention a little bit of what are the additional contributions that you make when you join a chain, and how do you choose what exactly do you want to build for that chain?
I can start on this one. So one thing that Strangelove likes to do is we like to kind of build tooling that will help other validators kind of step up their game as far as security. A huge product that we have, it's called Horcrux, which is a very security-focused tool that allows you to take your key, split it into multiple shards, just like Voldemort split his soul into multiple parts. And I think that's probably one of the key contributions that we like to do, is just helping other people kind of get into the validation business, understand the tooling that's out there. We run a bunch of relayers too, so if teams need help, if what they're building depends on being able to communicate with other teams, we set up those paths for them, whether they're regular transfer paths or more complicated ones like you use for consumer chains.
Our thought process is always making things easier for everyone. So we're helping people, whether it's stakers and delegators, we're helping people just stake easier and track their rewards easier, and make it easier for validators as well. One of the things that we're launching here at Cosmoverse is actually our governance tool on Allnodes, and it helps people vote without using CLI or any technical problems or issues. So it's basically click and sign with your wallet, and you can also do other things like granting your wallet management tools to basically delegating voting from one wallet over here and maybe managing the node over here, so it's safer and secure as well.
I mean,
John, I want to hear your opinion on that.
Massive respect for Allnodes, Strangelove, and there are so many OG validators in the Cosmos space at least who have contributed to the ecosystem, and even for the validators too, helping out in Discord, Telegram, and setting aside the toolings that you guys are providing. You guys been been very helpful for not just validators, but I think for the general users as well. I guess from a newbie perspective, it's more of a luxury. I guess the research is more focused on like from our end, it's more focused on like, selecting chains that does it really suit or fit with the clients that we have? Like, are we trying to run a chain that is profitable for us and also like, beneficial for our clients? That's one. Two is, as a company based in APAC and as a company that is striving toward to become a go-to validator in the space, in the APAC region, can we actually help out the chain in that like angle? Is also the another research that we put in a lot in terms of, can we really appeal to the APAC like market with this L1 that we're trying to help out? If not, we don't tend to take the validator opportunity even if it's an inbound. So I guess it's really different. I mean, we don't really have a luxury to provide tooling. It's more about soft areas that we touch that not many other validators can touch. We have a deep root in the APAC market, like including Singapore, like Korea, like, and other areas as well. It's just that, like, do we have that capacity to, translate that to the L1 or not is basically the research that we do internally, and then we provide that to the L1 as we move forward together, like, in terms of like, getting listed, like, connecting them with the listing teams or the exchange research team, or those are the type of the activities that we tend to do, and I think that is heavily related to our research. So our research is a little different from course one's like more like, deep research, but like I think, as a newbie, that's like a way to survive, I would say.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so there's actually also like a value add that you can bring to the ecosystem as well. Yeah, I think I actually have a theory where running validators and generating like native block rewards is actually such a like Web3 native way to survive first as a startup, and then like generate profit for a business, regardless you're actually building a startup. I always like encourage, actually, like if you're building like a startup in any ecosystem that you're like sort of like surviving because there's no like immediate business model for a project, I encourage them to actually like have the capability to run a validator. It's not that hard if you're just spinning off like your first chain or the second chain. And like for those like Solana projects to run a small validator in the Solana ecosystem. And similarly in Cosmos. So we actually think we're lucky to actually start thinking about this and start generating revenue for Dora. Our goal is actually first to survive and second to actually generate money for dev. That's just our contribution that we really want to give to developers and really want to give to every ecosystem that we want to support. But I do see like all the panelists here are contributing to the ecosystem in your own way, whether it's like attracting more retail stakers or like making core contributions to the ecosystem, or actually like helping ecosystem in like different region adoptions. It's just like our own way of like contributing to the ecosystem.
Now the question, Steve, do you work on the weekends?
Yeah. I have been not taking weekends off for like 6 years.
So is it a problem if a network decides to do an upgrade on a Friday? Like, what is there the best day of the week where networks should do an upgrade for you? Like, what is your recommendation for builders that are here?
Yeah, like Web3 is like really fun because the trading is nonstop. It's 24/7. The validation is nonstop. I give huge credits to our DevOps team. Like I always push them, hey, we're like the bottom validator on like this network. Can we like move it up? And they're always like, okay, Steve, let me work on it. But they actually work overnight to fix it. So they're like really, really good. And I bet like all of the validators here have a great DevOps team that provides like impeccable services to the I think the uptime of like different networks. Yeah, so
Shout out to DevOps teams.
yeah, shout out to the DevOps.
Yeah, definitely.
And here's this like DevOps here. Woohoo! Amazing.
Team over here.
Kudos to you guys.
Absolutely.
I think it's the same story for every one of us, right? Do you stay offline in the weekend? I don't know. Like, I think most of the validators who are actually operating at the top level has probably similar systems internally. Like, they would probably have a Slack channel just dedicated to their alert systems or alert notifications, which goes off like 24/7. We just tell like business guys or other team members to, hey, shut off that channel for you guys. But like, for DevOps is always like 24/7, like, it's going on. Like for instance, like, it's Korea is like a huge national, like, holiday season. I don't think our business team members and DevOps team members are actually having any breaks because it's only for Korea, right? Whereas we're communicating with like mostly people like who are not in the region. I think what L1s could do in order to actually alleviate the pain of the validators would be, I guess DYDX has been really good in terms of like, doing the test net, like, trying to like, minimize the friction with the validators. They've been approaching in many different ways, like having separate channels for separate issues and separate agenda. It's a lot of work. Kudos to DYDX team for like all the showing all the works for the testnet validators. And I think it's really important for L1s to actually think about it because at the end of the day, the fatigue that gets to validators sometimes just like kind of make you become a second priority out of all the chains that they're validating for. Because in order to keep the lights on, we're not going to be like just operating one or two chains and like fully like concentrated. We're going to have like multiple chains on our hands. So
Yeah, I don't think in particular like having it on like any day matters. It's more like about having advanced notice so that you can make sure that your team is in place, able to handle the upgrade. Your team needs to have tooling in place too to like even be aware. There's so many different upgrades happening. They're getting announced in different locations. Some are in Discord, some are in
different tools as
Telegram,
well.
some are through email. So just
Pager
being aware of where all those
Discord,
channels
Telegram,
are.
Slack channels, like every network you're choosing different ones, and we
Exactly.
need to keep
Right.
track of all of them. It's becoming a bit noisy.
Yeah, and then just having the software in place to actually manage that stuff, making sure you can assign someone to be responsible. So at Strangelove, we use like a combination of like Ops Genie for just assigning rotation. We have a very robust like monitoring system. We know as soon as either a software upgrade proposal has happened, on-chain plan has gone on. We have a shared calendar. Just tooling really helps out with keeping on top of that.
Yeah, I have to shout out to our dev team as well at Allnodes. I mean, I feel bad when we have to wake them up at 2 a.m. their local time, or they've been working for 24 hours, and of course, we're sharing GIFs and everything like that. That's saying, "Oh, working on this chain has turned me into an old man or an old woman, etc." But everything is fun. I can't remember the last time I didn't work on a weekend, so I just try to, when things are slow, I try to make a weekend out of something. So sometimes it's like, hey, Tuesday's really quiet. Let's just go do a family day. And hopefully I can just do everything that I need to do on a phone, and not in front of a laptop. So just making weekends when I can.
I'll add one more comment on that too. One thing that I've kind of just noticed lately that Hypha does, which is really cool, is they have Testnet Wednesdays. Shout out to Lex right there. But it's just predictable, and you know when it's going to happen, and you're just like, oh, just need to go check in, and it's easy.
Cool. I'm running out of questions, so I'd like to know, and yeah, we are also running out of time. Would you like to leave some final words for your team, for people here? Anything, feel free.
Yeah, I would just encourage everyone to follow Dora, our hackathons, to support all the amazing builders in the Cosmos ecosystem, and to keep track of Dora Factory's public staking. We are trying to support more chains, and want to support the hacker movement in Cosmos and beyond.
yeah, if you want to engage more with the APEC market, I would probably recommend talking to me or Kevin Kim, who is in the Cosmoverse with me on the A41 side. And also huge props to Josh Lee, who brought up the topic around validator versus governor idea. I think that idea should be addressed more deeply in the Cosmos space, at least because we're seeing so many proposals that are coming out. A lot of the protocol specialists or researchers are having fatigue over governance as well. We need to do better in the governance field, at least by the end of this year and next year as well. So as a whole, all the validators and us as ecosystem participants, I think we need to actually delve into this matter in a more serious manner.
So if you want to hear more about what Strangelove's doing, or if you have an idea for launching something and just want some advice, just look for any of us wearing green shirts or come down to our booth. If you want some swag, we'll be passing out stickers and stuff too. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to see everybody at our booth today and tomorrow, and look forward to chatting with people and just showing them some of the new tools that we're building on Allnodes to make everything easier for everyone. So thanks for everybody for attending today. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
Great. Thanks, guys. Thanks everyone for watching. See you around. Enjoy Cosmoverse.